Welcome to Riding Along. Today's episode is all about using genres to destroy them, or creating genres to destroy them, rather. I have this guide I usually mention at the beginning and end of my video. I really want you to check it out. It's really everything you need to get started to write your book in a reasonable time frame, which I'm pretty sure you want to do. I don't you want to spend 10 years of your life writing it when you can spend about a month, maybe a couple months if you want to slow it down. Like there's not a big rush. I just want to get you to that point where you realize you don't have to spend your entire life writing one work. That's why there's a life's work. There's all kinds of stuff you do throughout your life. If you're stuck right now, getting unstuck isn't really an impossible task. It's actually can happen pretty fast. So again, like I said, today's all about ignoring genres to destroy them. When you're writing, you are going to be tempted to essentially pick a genre. That's what everyone always asks. Like, what genre are you writing in? What kind of not what style are you writing in? Not what's your theme? Not what's your point? What genre are you writing? Because as a human, it's really nice to categorize things. It's nice to put things in the shelves, in the literal sense, but also mentally. Isn't it nice to just be like, oh, I understand this. We do that with people too. Like, oh, this person is that kind of person, and that's just all they are. And because of that, I'm able to predict this. And we want to feel like we have a grip on the world. We have an understanding, and genres allow us to do that. It's useful, especially for retail stores. I mean, selling books online sources like I'm sure Amazon loves that. They can just neatly categorize everything and sell accordingly. But as a writer, you don't need to obsess with that. It's just not really necessary. And I've talked about genres before, but I really want you to get into the habit of destroying them, because it's not really something as a writer that you need to ever obsess yourself with. You need to write what story is coming to your head, what idea is giving you inspiration, and what is bringing you to the page each and every day. That's really what matters, because that's what's going to keep you coming back. That's what's going to keep you feeling inspired. That's what's going to make your writing authentic, not trying to adhere to this very strict rules and guidelines that you think exist that really no one gets to define. Who says what sci-fi is? Who says what a horror can be or needs to be? No one. There's no authoritative figure that gets to define this stuff officially. Publishing companies, I'm sure, would even admit themselves that genre is a loose and unstable concept. It's not something that has existed necessarily always. It's a fairly recent development. In terms of the very clear way that it's portrayed now, I'm a horror writer, I'm a sci-fi writer, I'm a fantasy writer. Just say you're a writer. It's a lot easier, especially if you're thinking of, if you can't help but think of new ideas all the time. Have you had this happen where you're writing and you think of another great idea and it pops in it may even distract you. It may get you stuck in a loop where you're like, man, I can't stay focused. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that. Maybe I can do all of them at once, and it never really happens. Sometimes it does, but for the most part it doesn't. But if you are thinking, man, well, I can only do that. That's what I do as a writer. That's what I do as a person. I can't expand into that other territory. That's one of the most limiting, that's one of the most sad things that I can hear from a writer, because it's just not necessary. It's not something that you need to put on yourself. You don't need to box yourself in. You don't need to harm yourself like that, because really you're limiting all this creative potential that you have. And for what? For this unstable, shaky concept. When something is not firmly grounded, what do? Push it off. It's going to get pushed off anyways. It's going to bump into it. It's going to get knocked over. In that sense, that's what all these labels are. They're just not needed. And I don't think there needs to be a clear distinction for this is a channel for fantasy writers, this is a channel for sci-fi writers and all that stuff. Yeah, it's cool, especially if it's providing entertainment content and stuff that people within that sphere and niche would like to be interested in. But when it comes to really just getting down what you're thinking of, that distinction is going to hurt you. It's not going to get you far. It's going to make you feel like writing might even get boring, because you can't reach into these places. It's like you try to walk out and someone says, nope, you're stuck here. This is all you can do. Or you may be writing a book or a story and someone says, hey, it's missing that. It needs that. Where is that? What is? And I'm like, I don't know what it is for you, but you know what it is. You know what you think you need in your books. You know what you think you need in your stories. And I'm here to tell you don't need them. Because who are these people who are telling you that you do? Who are these invisible rule makers that we've created in our brains, that we've created in our minds? It's funny, we're making fictions about fictions when it comes to genres, and it's just one of the most unnecessary things ever. Let's say I am trying to write a great sci-fi book or something like, and I have this cool idea, and I get stuck where I want to incorporate some kind of historical elements into it, and it's like, what do? Do I look up how to mix sci-fi and historical fiction? And then I just have some random person telling me, like, this is the only way to do it. It's like you can't have someone holding your hand at that phase of writing. I teach writing to people, and even then, I cannot hold your hand through those parts. Otherwise, I'm paving the way. You don't want anyone to pave the way for you. You're the one creating these paths. In the same way your actual brain, your thoughts are creating neural pathways. Same way creatively, you're creating creative roads that are going to be followed, that are going to be made new. You don't have to go to uncharted territory, but sometimes you do need to make new roads. And that's what your writing can be. That's what it should be. That's the kind of writing that you read and you go, wow, this is something different. It's familiar. I know this place, but I've never seen it taken this way. And I do believe there are like infinite roads to be made, and most of them will never even be paved because most people don't become writers. It's otherwise it's too hard. I don't have time for that. I don't know how to do that. I'm not a writer. I'm this. I'm that. I'm that. And it's that same habitual thinking that you're already stuck in. If you're stuck in this loop of this genre hell, you may also think in other areas of your life, like, oh, I can only be this. Same thing as a writer. You may think, I'm only a writer. I can't be a musician. I can't be a filmographer. I can't be all this stuff. This is my role. This is how I fit into what? Into a machine? Are you just a part of something? No, you're a complex, dynamic human being who's hearing, who's thinking, who's reacting to words as I say them, who's reacting to words as you say them. Your own thoughts. You're having a conversation with yourself in a dialogue. Are you listening to it? Are you hearing it? Are you listening to the valuable insights it's giving you? Not necessarily me. I mean you. You are this. You're not just a part of a factory. You are the factory. You are the idea maker and the idea producer. And you got to start giving yourself more credit. Give yourself a little more just trust that you'll know what you're doing when you're writing. So don't worry about them. Write the story that's in your head already. And don't feel like you need to incorporate historical fiction elements into my prose at this exact moment, and I need to incorporate increments of suspense and horror. I make fun of that process of thinking a lot because it's absurd. It really is. It goes against everything that writing means and really everything it should mean, because it's freedom. Writing is experiencing the world in an unlimited way, and reading is being taken on that trip. And you know what I'm talking about. As writers, whatever phase you're in right now as a writer, maybe you still love reading books and you're reading them at the same time right now. But often there's usually some kind of distinction where it's like the switch goes in your brain where it's like, okay, it's time to write now. I'm done consuming stuff. I just want to write. But you know what it's like. You know what it already can feel like to be taken to these places, to be shown around. It's like, as a writer, you're this tour guide. Do you want a tour guide who's just giving a tour that they've learned from someone else and it's kind of boring and it's just repeated and you've already been on before? Or do you want to go somewhere that you've never been before? You want to see something new, something safe. You're not like in physical danger, but you're some sights that haven't been seen before, or a path that hasn't been taken before. Those are the things that are interesting. Those are because it's novelty. it's literally in the word novel. There's novelty in it. There's some kind of uniqueness that you bring to the table, that you can bring to the table with your writing. I want you to bring it forth through every word you use, and it won't be something so very conscious. It'll be something that happens automatically when you have this stuff in your head, when you realize you can let go of all that stuff that is said to be so important when really it's not. Really, the writers you admired most likely did not care. They had no real obsession with what they were supposed to be doing, what people told them to do as writers. And that's why they stood out. That's why they're remembered. That's why they're memorable. And if you want to write, I think you want to be a part of that too. And it's not something you're going to hear on a top 10 trendy writing tips. It's not at all going to be something, because it goes against the grain. And isn't that what writing should be? Isn't that what writing should be doing? Not for the sake of it, but because it wants to, because it needs to. That necessity that is really coming forth from your mind. And let it come forth. Don't hide it. Don't run away from it. I said, check out this guide I have on my website, writingalong.com. 10 parts, really going to get you started in the right direction as far as your book. So I'll see you around in the next episode, and thanks for stopping by today.